Hey everybody! Today, Rahdo runs through his top 100 games of Essen Spiel 2017. Although I'm sorry to say, you are only going to get to see the top 10 of those top 100. For the other 90, you can go listen to my latest episode of my podcast, episode 30, I think, wherein I talked about 90 games before I get to these, my most must-have, will pick up no matter what games of Essen Spiel 2017. So there's a link for it down in the show notes. If you want to, listen to the podcast, you can do that on a web browser or your phone or what have you. You don't need a special type of app or anything like that. Anyway, go ahead and follow that link. But otherwise, you can follow along as I finish that top 100 by doing the top 10. Like I said, I've been recording this all day now. I think I'm on hour 4 at this point for the podcast. No, probably about 3 hours in. I'd have to look. But anyway, I'm going to continue for them, and I'll throw some nice pictures up on the screen for you all as well. Although right now I got to have some honey water first. Just a second. You'd think I would have done that before filming, and I did. My throat's so sore. All right, so here we go. Let's begin. All right, no, because I need to prepare. Okay. All right. Okay, everybody, welcome back. We made it through 90. Now it's just those final 10. Thanks for sticking with me. I assume you must be on a plane or a train, something like that, heading to Essen right now, because otherwise, why you would have listened for so long, I can't imagine. But these final 10, I've been saying all the way through, are kind of an odd collection for me. It's why I kept coming back to, this is tied for number 11, because here's the thing about the number 10. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of these 10 I've already played, I've already filmed run-throughs for, and I already own. There's only 3 of them that I do not actually, is that right? That one? No, only 2. Yeah, there's only 3 of them that I don't have here right now. So that's the thing. When I set out to make my top 100, I could have said, well, let me do a true top 100 that's only what I am interested in that I haven't already played. I know a lot of reviewers do that, and I don't understand why, because that doesn't help you folks. Just because I've gotten advanced copies of games doesn't suddenly mean that those games aren't worthy of being in a top 10 just because I already played them. So I'm treating this list like it is, like I'm just a standard consumer going to Essen, and I've made my list. I don't own any games that are going to be put out at the show for the first time, and which ones should I bring back? Which 100 or which 10 should I bring back? That's how I did this, and that's why so many of the ones I've talked about, I've already played, I already own, including several of these top 10s. And so that's why there were so many in the previous, where I kept having to say, this should really be in the top 10. Because if this were a top 10 only of the games that I have yet to play and am personally excited because I've never gotten to see them before, this would be a very different top 10. But like I said, just to be clear, this is a list of games that if I were just a regular consumer, a fan on Board Game Geek, watching other people's videos, these would be the ones I would decide to seek out based on the knowledge that I have. So, without further ado, let's start with number 10, A Tale of Pirates, which is one of the ones that I've already done a run-through for. And wow, I mean, I've been waiting for this game for years, since it was originally called Admiral of the Black. I think it was announced like 2 or 3 years ago from Crano Creations, and then just year after year, it didn't come out. Finally, it's coming out, and it's better than I could have hoped for. This is a real-time cooperative game, and you can check out my run-through to see Jen and me play through an entire session of this to get an idea of how it plays. But anyway, this is a cooperative game where players are doing worker placement on the deck of a pirate ship. And the pirate ship is awesome because this little 3D model that you actually have to build out of cardboard pieces as part of setup. Once you've built it, you don't have to build it again, and the box is really well designed so that everything fits back in without having to take everything apart. Nice, super nice design on this game. Gameplay design, but also component design. But anyway, you've got this ship, and you're racing against the clock because it's a real-time cooperative game, and the workers you place in the various stations to load the cannon or fire the cannon or steer the ship or be on the lookout or whatever it might be are hourglasses. So you have to, put the hourglass in the spot to do the action you want to do, and then you got to wait 30 seconds before you can do the action. And in a game where you've only got a few minutes to achieve what you're trying to do, having to wait those 30 seconds is agonizing. But during those 30 seconds, that's when you're talking to your fellow pirates to decide, right, who's going to do what next? Because one player can't do everything. You have to coordinate your actions. Okay, I'm about to be ready to fire this cannon, but oh no, the cannon exploded. Could you quickly go over there and repair the cannon, because I don't want to have to leave because I already spent time here getting ready to fire. If nobody repairs it, I can't fire. That kind of stuff pops up quite a bit. And it's a blast to play. And the other thing that's really amazing about this game too is it has this epic story that is told through mission after mission after mission, as more and more elements get added to the game. New types of gameplay, new actions you can do with your hourglasses, new threats to take down, new chapters in the story. And it's really, really cool. At this point, Jen and I, we're only about halfway through, but we have been loving it. And if all that weren't enough, this game also, now for some people this is going to be a deal ender right here, but this game actually requires that players use an app. It's a real-time game, and so of course you need to have a timer to keep track of your 5 minutes you have. And so the app does that, but then the app also throws surprise obstacles your way during the countdown, which is something that just a regular sand timer wouldn't be able to do. So they can keep you on your toes. Also, it's interesting thing is this is a game that gets you into the gameplay very, very quickly, because at start there's very little in the way of rules. As you play through more and more, the app will reveal more and more rules to you. So the app integration is great. Although if you watch my run through, you'll notice I had more complaints about the way the app is implemented than I did the game itself. And I've talked to the publishers, and they're still, the beautiful thing about apps in board games is, after the game ships, if the developers get feedback that, people would really like to see this, this, or this, it can be added after the fact. You can't, retroactively change a board game. It's written in stone, but the digital component can keep advancing, and I'm looking forward to see what they continue to do with the app. The gameplay is great. It's a blast. Watch my run through to watch me and Jen have a nonstop fun time for however long I filmed it for. Really, really phenomenal, excellent stuff. My number 10, Tale of Pirates. And now, let's move on to number 9, This War of Mine, which I guess is getting its big European release at Essen Spiel 2017. Now, I have done a lot of video on this game. Back when it was on Kickstarter, was it last year? Or it might even been the year before. I don't really quite remember for sure. I did a big, long, epic run through, and then when I finally got the Kickstarter edition, I did another update to show how all the rules have changed, and then I did an updated Final Thoughts because I'd played the game a lot more and whatnot, and so I had a lot to say. That Final Thoughts was about an hour long. If you're going to watch it, I recommend you do so at 2x speed to try to get through it, because, man, there is so much to say. And now I'm not going to spend another hour repeating myself about how amazing and how important this game is as a milestone for the development of the overall board game industry, the art of board game development. This War of Mine does a lot of really important things. One, more than anything else, it is a work of art. It is the developers trying to show their perspective of something that happens in the human experience, and allow players to go on a journey that brings them out the other side as wiser, more well-rounded people. This has the game, I mentioned in my Final Thoughts, has the potential to make you a better person because you will have had the opportunity to, you think you understand the horrors of war, and you're like, oh yeah, war is terrible, and yeah, and what's going on in the Middle East, that's a real problem, and but you know what, I gotta get back to collecting Pokemon Go or whatever, it just doesn't have an impact in most of our day-to-day life. Playing this War of Mine puts you in that world in a much more meaningful way than, watching the evening news or a 60-minute story, or heck, even watching a feature film or a TV show, because it puts you into this world and forces you to make the same types of harrowing decisions, life or death decisions, that regular civilians have to make in times of war, because that's what this war of mine is all about. You're not a brave soldier, you're a regular, everyday Joe or Jane, just trying to survive and keep your family and your friends alive, and just survive until the end of this war. It's amazing. I'm in danger of actually doing a whole nother hour on it right now, so I'm just going to stop right there and say, I think even, the gameplay itself, it's good. It's solid gameplay. It's an interesting mix of kind of push your luck with worker placement and stuff like that, resource management. There's some combat, dice rolling, and various things. The gameplay is good. It's very solid. It's from the designer of... I can't think of the name of it. It's from a very respected designer, Michael Schock. No, not Michael Schock. I'm putting his name on the screen right now because I can't remember. Like I said, I've been filming for 3 hours, folks. I'm at my wit's end. But anyway, it's from a very renowned designer, and my brain has completely failed me at this point. And the gameplay is good. I enjoy the gameplay, but what I enjoy more is the overall experience, the way that this game transports me into a real world, into a real situation, and gives me a greater appreciation for the human condition. That's an amazing accomplishment, and that's why this war of mine is number 9 on my must-check-out list of Essen 2017. Of course, I've already checked all this out, but even if I hadn't, knowing what I know about this war of mine, it would be at the top of my list of things to seek out at the show. But now let's move on to number 8, Santa Maria. And now, I have to admit, I was very, very surprised with this. I was very confident this was going to be a good game because it was from the designer of Avenue and Escape, Curse of the Temple, and a bunch of other games that I've really, really enjoyed. Jen and I have really enjoyed Automania and several others besides. So Jen and I, we've enjoyed these designers' work. So I was confident it would be good. And it was a dice drafting game, which is, I can't speak for Jen, but it's certainly my favorite gameplay mechanism of all time. So, and it's it's on the surface, it's just a normal, dry, just a soulless Euro-style game. You're running you're running a colony in the New World in Santa Maria, trying to build your colony to be stronger and run it to get more resources, to pursue different agendas and stuff like that. Standard, typical Euro stuff. But man, this game so elevates the economic Euro. This is, forget about top 10 Essen games to pick out. This is easily going to be in my top 10 games of the year. And I didn't really expect it because I thought it was just going to be more of the same. But the decisions that are forced on you, because you draft dice, and then the die you end up taking determines what portion of your colony you can activate to be able to get special powers and stuff like that. And so you're always building with an eye towards the dice you can draft. But those dice might get drafted by somebody else at any given time. You're always drafting with an eye towards how can you best run your colony. And those two halves of this symbiotic gameplay circle that this game creates are amazing. It's not a super heavy game, but the ramifications for every choice you make are so deep and so long-reaching. Stuff you do at the beginning of the game, you'll be like, why did I do this at the end of the game? Or you'll be like, oh, thank God I did this. I'm brilliant at the end of the game. Your decisions are so meaty and impactful. It is so compelling. It's also a very fast game. It looks nice. And overall, I'm just blown away when I first played Santa Maria. So that's why it's my number 8. And now on to number 7. Here is the first of the 3 games that I do not have. And it is called Hunt for the Ring. Now, I'm very, very stoked for this because, well, one, my wife is the biggest Lord of the Rings geek in the universe. I think she's a bigger Lord of the Rings geek than a Harry Potter geek, I think. Although depends on what time of the day you catch her, I suppose. But she loves Lord of the Rings, and we played most of the Lord of the Rings style, Euro style games that are on the market. This is the latest ones coming out. And I think this might prove to be our favorite because this is a hidden movement game where one player takes on the role of Nazgul and the other player, or players, if you have more than 2 players, takes on the role of, or one player is Gandalf, trying to guide Frodo through all the adventures he's going to have to get to Mount Doom and destroy the ring. The other players or player control the Nazgul who are trying to find Frodo and stop him. stop me if you've heard this story. So the setting, it works, it's great, it's immediately compelling. Of course, everybody loves this story, we want to get in. But there's a few things that are interesting. I mean, the interesting thing is Frodo is not directly under any player's control. Frodo is the target for the Nazgul players. We got to find him, we got to swallow his soul and win the game. The hidden player is Gandalf, and Gandalf does not have perfect control over what Frodo does. Gandalf can manipulate Frodo and try, okay, well look, you really need to be going over here and doing this, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. And the other thing Gandalf can do is run interference for Frodo, because unlike most hidden movement games where, okay, well, yeah, I'm Mr. X or I'm Dracula or whatever, you just try to spend the entire game hidden and just stay one step ahead of the hunters. In this game, if I understand it correctly, it would make sense for you to, oh my God, they're about to find Frodo. Hello, everybody, come over here, and put yourself out there so that the other players will know where you are and come for you, because of course they're chasing after Gandalf as well. The fact that the hidden player has a reason. Now again, I have not read the rules. This is my assumption of what they would do based on the fact that the hidden player it doesn't matter whether they get to mount Doom. The hidden player has a responsibility of taking care of this other hidden character who is under control by the game, and you can't be totally sure what he's going to do. I think that is brilliant. I absolutely love that idea. That is really fresh and interesting and new in the genre of hidden movement. And Jen and I, we've been looking for a hidden movement game that we could really enjoy. For various reasons, none of them have really clicked with us, and I think this might finally be the one. So I cannot express how excited I am to finally get to check out Hunt for the Ring. And then we move on to my next game that we don't actually have here, although I have played it. Earlier this year, I was at a convention called Lyricon, where Matt Gertz was demoing his latest big epic Euro, Transatlantic. Now, it used to be called Steamship Company, and I think even before that it was just called Ships or something like that. But now its official name is Transatlantic. And when I got to play it earlier this year, I was blown away, because at the time, I likened it to Matt Gertz made Hamburgum, which was a very, very cool Rondel game. It worked really well. But then after that, he made Navigador, that took what Hamburgum did and blew it up in a million directions and made it so much more than you ever would have thought it could have been just having played Hamburgum. Transatlantic is doing the same thing with Concordia, because Transatlantic at the Corvid, it uses the same got to play my cards, eventually got to spend a turn to call them all back before I can do these actions again gameplay system that Concordia does. And sometimes I copy the actions of other players and whatnot, but instead of being set in ancient Rome trying to colonize the whole known world, and I'm doing a lot of area control. Instead, this is an economic industry game where players are trying to build transatlantic steamships and build better and better ships, get them into ports, get them moving from place to place, get them transferring passengers all around. The end goal of the card-driven gameplay is much richer and more robust and more complex than, right, okay, I just want to make sure I get over to this other house here, and I want to make sure I have enough of these cards so I get lots of bonus points at the end of the game. This is a much deeper, meatier game. The core gameplay is just as compelling because Concordia was so brilliant. But now it's pushing an engine that is so much richer and comes to life. And I guess, to me anyway, is a little bit more immediate and engaging because, of course, it's not set in the modern time. It's set basically around the end of the 19th, early 20th century, as the rise of the steamship came about. It's also, by the way, a love letter to steamships because Matt Gertz, man, when I was talking to him about this, he was so passionate about this subject. And it shows in, he's been working on this game for years and years and years. This year was not the first time I played it. I've played it at Essen in the past. And he's just been constantly refining it and getting it to where it's just perfect. And it's finally going to be here, folks. And that's why it's number 6 on my list, Transatlantic. And now, for number 5, the last game I don't own. So numbers 4, 3, 2, and 1 are all going to be games I've done run-throughs for, and we'll get to those in a second. But right now, let's talk about number 5, Loot Island. From What's Your Game? And I think I've said this before. What's Your Game? If I were to ever do a top 10 game publishers, What's Your Game? They'd easily be in the top 3. They might be number 1 because I love the fact that they are the torchbearers for big, meaty, heavy Euros. They're not the only ones doing it, but every year when a What's Your Game game comes out, you know you're going to get a really rich, intricate, lovely, beautifully designed, carefully crafted Euro-style experience. I mean, they can do no wrong. I love what they do. But the interesting thing is, most of their games are definitely on the heavier side. Loot Island is a return to there's a brief moment a few years ago when they put out a lighter game, and amongst all their normal big, crazy, heavy Euros, they put out this smaller box, lighter game called Oddville. Oddville is a phenomenal game. Jen and I absolutely love it to tears. It's one of our favorite What's Your Game games. And I've always thought, man, they do amazing big, meaty Euros. How come they don't do more of these, like kind of little light to medium weight ones? I've been waiting for another one from them for years, and Loot Island is it. It is, like I said, a smaller box, smaller game, still deep, still rich, but quicker to play, not quite so complex, not quite so destroys your brain and melts your skull kind of a thing, and is very, very cool and fun and evocative. In this game, players are all members of the same pirate pirate ship, and this ship is basically circling around Loot Island, going into bays to be able to collect treasure. And the closest thing I could draw a parallel to would be a game called Tobago, which is a game where players all worked cooperatively to build treasure maps to find out where the treasure was on the island of Tobago. In this game, players are working cooperatively to create all these caches of treasure around the map, so that if they've contributed to a given cache, when the ship pulls in, they'll be able to get something out of it as well. And so sometimes players want to make sure, I've contributed heavily, nobody else has contributed heavily, I want to make sure we get to that port quickly, so I'll get a bigger benefit than anybody else. But there are so many things you can do. There are so many special powers that do things like make the ship go 180 degrees in the other direction, or skip, or do wild cards by combining. There's a million things you can do. The game it's light, it's fast, it's simple, it's fun, it's very interactive, and that's an interesting thing too. The game does have some teeth to it, and normally that's an instant shut-off, turn down for me and Jen, because we just don't want to do this game. But this game, when I played it earlier this year at Laracon, it was so good. I played it once as a 4-player game, and then immediately I demanded, you must let me play this game as a 2-player game, because I want to see if it's going to be good for me and Jen. And even though it was a game where sometimes you got to be a little sneaky and try to undo the plans of your opponents, the gameplay was so resplendent that I'm still excited for it anyway, and that's why it's on my number 5, Loot Island. Now, let's talk about number 4. Steffenfeld is back, baby. It's Merlin time. Yeehaw! I'm sorry to say I have not filmed a run-through for this one. It just showed up the other day. I backed it on Kickstarter because I know some people have had a problem with Queen games on Kickstarter. Every time I backed a game on Kickstarter from Queen, it has shown up very, very quickly. Well, I've gotten it weeks or even months before it was available, in retail, and it was a reasonable price because they always threw in extra little stuff. So I've always been very happy with them, and I'm very, very happy I did it because there's Merlin right there on my shelf. Jen and I, we've played it a couple times now, and oh my gosh, Feld is back, baby. Now, I'm not saying this is his best, but this is a really, really cool game. And unfortunately, I probably won't be doing a run-through for it for a while because at any given time, I've always got so many review copies the publishers have sent to me. I've always got to prioritize those higher than the games that I buy for myself. But I will take a moment to tell you what it's all about. It is set in the age of Arthurian legend. We are all knights competing to be Arthur's replacement because he has to pick one of us when he steps down. So, of course, we're trying to get a lot of points. The board is the round table, and all around the round table are different action spaces, and each of us has a little marker, and we're moving clockwise on your turn. You move clockwise. Usually, sometimes if you get special powers, you can go counterclockwise. And wherever we land, we do that action. Here's the thing. This is a roll and move game because it's not like a rondel where, okay, I will always choose to move 1, 2, or 3, and if I want to move extra, I can spend some money. This is a pure game where every round, I roll some dice. These are the numbers I've got. These tell me how far I can move. This is what's amazing to me about this game. It's pure roll and move. That is the beating heart of this game, which is the ultimate insult to modern designer board game fans. Roll and move. That's what I played when I was a kid. Nothing good can come of roll and move. Merlin did, and Merlin is great because he did a simple little thing. On your turn, you don't just roll one die and say, oh, well, I guess the die tells me what I can do, that's it. At the beginning of a round, you roll 3 dice, and then you're going to use, you roll a 1, a 6, and a 2. You're going to use that 6 to move 6 spaces, and then on your next turn, you're going to move that 2 to move 2 spaces, and on your next turn, you're going to move that 1 to move 1. Now, you don't have to do them in that order, and that's where all the gameplay comes from, because as soon as I see what my 3 dice are, and I look ahead to where I am, and I can see that, okay, a 6 followed by a 2 followed by 1, those will be my 3 next actions. A 1 followed by a 6 followed by 2 would be these actions. Oh, but if I do a 1 and then a 6, that's going to actually let me do something that will change. So I don't have to do this 2, because then I can go counterclockwise. So it would really be a 1, a 6, and then instead of an 8, it would be a 4. And you spend so much time at the beginning of every round. Okay, I roll. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to use these? How am I going to work my way around? Because, of course, you need, in a given turn, to get over this place to exert your influence, in this particular principality. Or you need, desperately, to get over here to deploy one of your henchmen so that they can help you spread your influence around the board, or whatever it might be. But I can't get to that because I rolled a 6 and a 2, and the thing is at a 4. Well, you know what? If you get that special power, let's go counterclockwise, move the 6, and then move the 2 back. It's such a cool, fun, simple, elegant idea. But it means throughout the entire game, you're making fun, interesting decisions in what's got to be, I would say, Feld's most thematic game to date. Just because, the world comes alive. All the actions you're actually doing, conquering land out in the air, or not conquering land, building manors, which will get you access to special powers, spreading your influence, deploying your henchmen to various areas, so much stuff. Really, really great, and we very much enjoyed it. I'm very, very happy to have it. I don't have to wait till Essen. I've got it right now. Thank you, Kickstarter. That's my number 4, Merlin. And now, let's move on to number 3. Another Kickstarted game. I've done quite a bit of videos for this. I might have done more run-throughs for this than any other game in history. It is Gloomhaven, which is making its retail debut here at Essen Spiel. Or Gloomhaven, I should say, 2nd edition. Of course, the first Kickstarter was released. It was in retail for a while and disappeared immediately because it was just gone like that. The 2nd edition, which cleans up some of the cards and just makes some other little changes, changes some of the components. The core game is the same, but it's definitely an improved 2nd edition. The Kickstarter was done earlier this year, and now retail fulfillment is happening, and you can go to Essen Spiel and pick up a copy of Gloomhaven. And what can I say, folks? I strongly suggest you do. As I recently revealed in my top 10 most played games of all time, Jen and I have played Gloomhaven more than any other game in the world. We've played Gloomhaven more than most other games combined. We have spent so much time in this epic, awesome legacy fantasy game this year that it defies description. It is an amazing accomplishment. It does so many great, wonderful things, which I won't even go into here. It's a legacy game, although for people who don't like legacy, it's very legacy light for people who are turned off by that. In fact, there are even anti-legacy kits you can get for Gloomhaven so that you don't have to put stickers on cards if you don't want to. Or you can just take notes if you don't want to. So it's light on the legacy, but it's so heavy on the storytelling, the campaign, and the really rich, deep, meaningful, card-driven skirmish combat gameplay. Skirmish combat gameplay is generally not something you find Jen and I are particularly keen on, but in this game, it's so amazingly good. If I could, I'd be playing it right now. Absolutely love it to death. My number 3, that's available at Essen 2017, is Gloomhaven. And then my number 2, hey folks, it's time for Charterstone, which I have recently finished playing. I've almost played this game 20 times now so that I could do my run through because it's a legacy game. I had to play through the whole campaign to be able to see everything is at. I played it a lot more since because unlike most legacy games, Risk Legacy I think did this as well. This game comes with rules. Actually, I shouldn't say unlike most. Unlike Pandemic Legacy. Pandemic Legacy is the only legacy game on the market that did not come with rules that say, right, after you finish the campaign, here's how you continue playing. Gloomhaven does it, and Risk Legacy does it, and Charterstone does it as well. And Jen and I, we have very much enjoyed going back into the city that we have built over the course of a dozen or more scenarios and created this thing that is completely unique to us. Charterstone is an insanely fast, high tension, quick moving worker placement game where every single time you play, you make permanent changes to the world that will inform what happens the next time you play. It's great. It's brilliant. We absolutely love it. You can watch my run through. You can watch my final thoughts. If I didn't have it, it would be the second most important thing for me to walk out of Essen with. I would not leave without a copy of it because it's not perfect. You can watch my final thoughts, which are spoiler-free, by the way. The run-through is pretty much spoiler-free as well. It's not perfect. There's a few little things that I would like to see improved, but on the whole, we had so much fun with it. I'm very confident in my choice of putting it number 2, Charterstone. But number 1, of course, it has to be Pandemic Legacy Season 2. And there's nothing much more for me to say about that. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 provided the single most powerful and impactful and meaningful gameplay experience I've ever had in my life. One specific mission. And on the whole, it was an amazing game. Well, I have played through Pandemic Legacy Season 1 through the campaign twice with 2 different copies of the game. We have played it probably a half a dozen times, continuing by using the board we built to get to play more and more games. And yeah, it was an incredible investment in gameplay, and now the sequel is finally here. I know nothing about this. Actually, that's not true. I do know a little bit. I've tried to go and know nothing. I don't want to know when it happens, where it happens. I don't want to know how it connects to the events in the first game. I wanted to go in as pure and virginal as possible so that the first time I open that box, my eyes open like saucers and a grin spreads across my face as I realize, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen. Now, unfortunately, I have actually learned a few things. And in fact, apparently somebody just warned me today. Just today, the publisher, Asmodee, or Z-Man, put out a new video that actually spoils some major stuff in there. And like, no spoilers, no back-of-the-box spoilers, no nothing. All I know is, that's why I can't say anything about this other than I have nothing but the highest hopes for what I'm sure will be an absolutely amazing experience. Will it be better than Gloomhaven? That's been tough. Will it be better than Santa Maria? Man, that's a tough one to beat too. But I have no doubt it'll be one of the best games of the year, and I am counting the seconds until I get to play it. And that's it, folks. My number 1 most anticipated game for Essen Spiel 2017, Pandemic Legacy Season 2, and phew, I made it. Tell you what, folks, if now you would like to stick around and continue with this podcast, we're going next into expansion. What expansions would I like to pick up at Essen Spiel? We'll cover that next. And then finally, if I've got the strength, I'll talk about what games to demo at the show. So hold on, everybody. We'll be right back. Except not for you folks, because again, you're watching this on YouTube. As I said, if you want to hear the rest, you want to hear me talk about expansions, you want to hear me talk about demos, you want to hear me talk about those other 90 games, again, down in the show notes, there is a link to a page that you can go to in any browser that will let you play the podcast and just listen to it through your speakers. You don't need to worry about getting your smartphone or anything like that. So that's it, folks. Once again, have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. See you in Deutschland. Bye-bye.